Well, happy March 13th, another Friday the 13th, Mary Jane. Um, and welcome, everybody. We are so happy you're here for recording purposes. And for those who may not know me, I'm Jan Charmias. And for many years, my focus has been on health. But when I think of health, I think of empowerment. And I think of my desire or my passion that everyone should feel empowered in their own health and well-being. They should be able to do what they need to do and learn what they need to know to be able to be as healthy as possible for as long as they can. And I've done that, and I do that through nutrition and aromatherapy, um, and supplementation. I work with both people and pets and have been doing that for a long time. And I'm really pleased and always overjoyed to be here with Mary Jane and our work together, which, came up on my feed this week. We've been doing work together for over, I don't know, 2 or 3 years now. And it has been truly an amazing journey that we have kind of created together. And one of the things we have created is just being here with you all. And we are so happy and blessed to have you all here. This community and these sessions would not be the same without all of you. And so thank you so much. And I will pass it to you, Mary Jane.
Yeah, thanks, Jan. Yeah, I know it doesn't, I know people say this all the time, but it really does not feel like it's been 3 years. So it seems like it's passed by in, as they say, in a blink of an eye. So yeah, I am Mary Jane, and I have my own creative studio where I help my fellow entrepreneurs as well as others who need graphic design assistance to co-create some beautiful things to share their missions and visions or their special events in a way that feels true to them. And it really brings me joy to reconnect people to their own creativity and to remind them of the importance of kindness, empathy, and compassion as it supports them on their journey. Because if we have to start with ourselves first and then pour that out to others. And so I love how Jan, you mentioned about the word empowered. That's so true because I feel that that's part of what I do with my clients is I give them a sense of being empowered. Often they're in a place of feeling stuck or not, you know, feeling that they're in the going in the right direction and overwhelmed. And I love to be able to bring that clarity to them. And of course, as always, the beautiful collaborations that we've made together here, these are just things that um, really speak to my heart because I know how important it is for us to keep communicating, to keep speaking, and to keep opening our hearts perhaps sometimes in a world where it seems like it's not safe to do so, but it's lovely to be in this space with all of you, as Jan mentioned, because we feel truly blessed for you to be here with us. So I just wanted to say that, Spirit Born Imaginings really is a place of presence, compassion, and curiosity. And we really come together to support self-kindness and our own inner transformation. And that sense of community is so key right now. Um, but there's nothing really you need to do or achieve here. Really, it's only an invitation to arrive exactly as you are in this moment. And I thank Jan for being part of this journey with me. And I wanted to share this morning actually a poem by John Rodell. I quite love his way of flipping ideas on their heads. He has such a way of his poetry that it's seemed he just has a way about him that I really a quirky way about him that I can really relate to, and I know Jan can as well. And this one starts like this. My brain and heart divorced a decade ago over who was to blame about how big of a mess I've become. Eventually, they couldn't be in the same room with each other. Now my head and heart share custody of me. I stay with my brain during the week, and my heart gets me on weekends. They never speak to one another. Instead, they give me the same note to pass to each other every week. And their notes they send to one another always says the same thing. This is all your fault. On Sundays, my heart complains about how my head has let me down in the past. And on Wednesday, my head lists all of the times my heart has screwed things up for me in the future. And they blame each other for the state of my life. There's been a lot of yelling and crying. So lately, I've been spending a lot of time with my gut, who serves as my unofficial therapist. Most nights, I sneak out of the window in my rib cage and slide down my spine and collapse on my gut's plush leather chair that's always open for me. And I just sit, sit, sit until the sun comes up. Last evening, my gut asked me if I was having a hard time being caught between my heart and my head. I nodded. I said I didn't know if I could live with either of them anymore. My heart is always sad about something that happened yesterday, while my head is always worried about something that may happen tomorrow. I lamented. My gut squeezed my hand. I just can't live with my mistakes of the past or my anxiety about the future. I sighed. My gut smiled and said, in that case, you should go stay with your lungs for a while. I was confused. The look on my face gave it away. If you're exhausted about your heart's obsession with the fixed past and your mind's focus on the uncertain future, your lungs are the perfect place for you. There is no yesterday in your lungs. There is no tomorrow there either. There is only now. There is only inhale. There is only exhale. There is only this moment. There is only breath. And in that breath, you can rest while your heart and head work their relationship out. This morning, while my brain was busy reading tea leaves and while my heart was staring at old photographs, I packed a little bag and walked to the door of my lungs. Before I could even knock, she opened the door with a smile, and as a gust of air embraced me, she said, "What took you so long?"
Thank you so much, Mary Jane, for sharing that. Yes, I am a huge John Rodell fan. Have been. I think that was the first poem that I read by him, was that poem you just shared. He wrote one of my favorite books. And I think it's also his humor, which I love, like his quirkiness, his planned words, but he really does have a great sense of humor and he has the ability to kind of take what we all go through, almost like, a sitcom would do, and make it so human. So thank you so much for sharing that. And so, welcome everyone once again. We welcome you to this time of pausing, of breathing, of gently stepping out of the rush of your day and into a space of reflection together. So many of us know what it feels like when the mind begins to circle, revisiting a conversation, replaying a moment, questioning something we said or something we wish we had done differently. At first, it may feel like we are trying to understand, trying to learn, trying to make sense of our experience. Yet sometimes, without even realizing it, reflection can slowly turn into rumination, and the mind begins to loop in the same place, what I like to call the mental cul-de-sac. Today, we are exploring something very simple yet very powerful, the difference between reflection that brings insight and rumination that keeps us stuck in the spiral of our thoughts. Reflection is curious. Reflection asks gentle questions. Reflection allows us to pause, to notice, to learn, and to move forward with greater awareness. Rumination, on the other hand, often pulls us into replaying the same story again and again, searching for answers that never quite arrive, sometimes leaving us feeling heavier rather than clearer. In our time together, we will explore how curiosity can soften self-criticism, how awareness can interrupt the spiral, and how reflection can become a path toward insight, compassion, and growth. So here we take time to pause, to consider, and to listen to our thoughts, to our experiences, and perhaps more importantly, to ourselves. And as we begin, we invite you to simply arrive, to allow your mind to settle, to take a few breaths in and out and just notice your breath, and to bring a sense of curiosity to whatever arises. There's nothing to fix and nowhere to rush to, just this moment, this conversation, and the gentle practice of pausing the spiral.
I love that Jan, how you brought to the sense of that reflection um, comes along with hopefully along with a sense of curiosity. And I really just loved how that sort of connected together because it's true. And I like how you used cul-de-sac because I that for me as a visual person that really I could picture it going round and round and never ending. So I just it's true. Our thoughts though can get stuck there, can't they?
Absolutely. It's a place that I've been stuck in quite often.
I'm
My
quite sure there's many present that have had the same experience.
with certain circumstances in my life, where I truly, truly felt stuck. And I was thinking of one of the situations where that happened to me. And I think that part of it was that that I had no answers. Like there was no, like, I think it came as such a shock. It was a traumatic event that, and there was no exchange with the other person that was involved. Like there was no answer and no communication at all. And so I think I had to create my own explanation for why it had happened. And that kept me stuck because I was very, very, very obsessed, I would say, with knowing why. And I was never going to know why totally. I mean, I could figure out why for myself, but I wasn't going to, on his end, he wasn't communicating. So it wasn't going to happen. And I think I got very trapped in trying to figure it all out and less about moving forward. It was much more to me like, why did this happen? Why did this happen? And a lot less about, well, what was next? A lot less about curiosity and much more about almost like, there had to be a reason. And it was really it was paralyzing.
Well, that's the thing, right? I mean, reflection, is that time of sort of looking at something with curiosity, right? But when we get to the point where we're ruminating, it is paralyzing because it's like your mind is in an endless spiral trying to figure out what's the way to same. But as we've talked about here in different conversations, is that sometimes we just need to take that one little step outside of the cul-de-sac and and in order to just move forward, those little small incremental steps, that's really what it can be about, because sometimes the answers aren't clear, and we don't always have the answers because sometimes we don't know what another person is thinking or what they're experiencing. And if they're not communicating, as I was saying earlier, right, communication is really key. So if they're not communicating, and sometimes the stories that we make up in our minds probably have very little basis in reality. They really just because we're looking for answers and because we don't have answers, we're trying to put some a story in place so it enables us to hopefully move forward, but sometimes it just keeps us in the spiral.
hmm And then I think that what ends up happening is that, if we create that story, we can, life will give us a way to reinforce whatever that story is.
Yes.
And so that story just takes hold, whether it's true or not.
Yes.
Get fixated on it because it's somewhat like, oh, if that's the explanation, then I'm going to create situations in my life where that's revealed to me, that where that truth is proven, whether it's true or not, whether that absolute or belief is, kind of substantiated. And then all of a sudden we've created a whole new belief system around something you know, that we got stuck on. And I like how you said step out of the cul-de-sac because I think that that's what it's like when you find yourself caught there. When you find yourself on that kind of spiral is trying to find little glimmers or opportunities for just 5 seconds or for, 20 seconds or a few minutes or 20 minutes to kind of step out of it. And I think sometimes that's hard to find, or we can find it. And then we go back in and automatically it starts again. And then, maybe it's your breath and you just pause and you try to, it's almost like you keep on stopping it. And it's not stopping in the fact that you don't want to, you have to process it, but you also don't want to live in it. Like
Yes.
24 hours a day, it's like like a constant news feed which everybody can relate to these days with technology. It's like that constant news feed on your phone,
Bombardment.
bombardment, exactly, that constant bombardment. And you're like, okay. Um, yeah, absolutely. I was just reading Seamus's comment.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, it is. The rumination is very much the critic. It's
Yeah.
like and there's very little compassion usually involved there, I think. Especially, at least in the beginning for me, there was very little compassion. It was
Yeah.
very hard. It was a very harsh voice that I was hearing.
Well, exactly. And it was just funny because before she was, but the thing I was just thinking about based on what we were talking about, I was thinking similar thoughts about like basically, how, reflection can give us, you know, the opportunities to learn and maybe make some sort of intentional choice. But, with where rumination, of course, focuses on self-criticism and let's face it, sometimes it's regret too for something that's happened. But I love that because it's like because reflection is about gaining perspective on where we're at, right? So I I love that. So it's like the energy was flowing because I was like Seamus was on the same wave.
Absolutely. And yeah, it was flowing. And I think curiosity, I mean, has the ability to then, curiosity leads to things like exploration and creativity,
Hmm.
as opposed and learning,
Yes.
which is the whole aspect of, ruminating. There's no opportunity to learn anything. I mean, curiosity is like if you think about when you're a child and you're curious, it's like you're curious and that's how you learn. And so if you can get curious about whatever the situation is or about your response in a situation, then
Hmm.
all of a sudden, or how you like thought how you expected things to happen versus how they went. If you can get curious and think about like, you know, what was this supposed to teach me? What am I supposed to learn from this? Um, what step could I now take? Like, what's the next best step versus replaying that same scenario, that same story over and over and over again in your head. Curiosity kills it. Okay. The meow meow. Thank you. Thank you, Al.
I love it. Well, it's yeah, well that's what they say. So let's just be dogs then. Because it's only as Al put it, meow meows that have the problem apparently. But they do say that they have 9 lives, so maybe.
Yeah, you know.
Oh my goodness. But yeah, it's just thank you for that little little break in with laughter. Um,
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you think about taking you out of spiral, laughter is a really great way to take you out of the spiral.
oh, absolutely. There is a reason why they say that that laughter is the best medicine because often it's true.
Mm-hmm.
It's
No,
not only from a scientific point of view because of the things that it releases into your body when you when you laugh, but just the simple fact of, it's for me sometimes laughter is just it could often be a form of letting go of the things because something if something I'm feeling something really intensely and something strikes me as funny, it's almost that same sense of letting something go, releasing it, not holding on to it anymore. So it's a it's a great stress buster.
no, it is. I mean, there are lots of different ways to break that pattern or to break that spiral. Feel free to share any that that you go to here. And I think I was thinking about it this morning, Mary Jane, um, before we got on, the whole idea of, like our workshops and opportunities to be creative, because I
Hmm.
think being creative is a great way to get out of the spiral
Yes.
because you get out of your head
Yes.
and um and you tap into something that's deeper, probably beyond, the cognitive mind. And so you sit there and opportunities to get creative, no matter whether that be like cooking for you or, you know, whatever avenue you use to create, writing, music, art, anything like that. But I think that creativity is a great opportunity to allow that part of us. And I was thinking about that in my path over the past 3 years, our path together. And I was thinking about my ability or my likely, like, let's say my tendency now to try to get curious about things and
Hmm.
to, my, um, you, in this whole idea that, or this whole thing I've been working through over the past like 6 months of this like practice of self-compassion, you know, every time I make a mistake, oh, it's another opportunity for me to be compassionate to myself. Oh, here's another one.
Way to
Okay.
flip the script, Jan. I love it.
Yeah. So here's another opportunity to be compassionate. And so, but I think that creativity, and I was thinking about like, I think our work together and the whole creativity has really perpetuated, like, promoted that path. So
Hmm.
well done us.
Yay! High five.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Seamus, please.
Yeah, and talking about creativity there, I think the poem does a great job as well of reminding us about like the power of stillness. And it's something Jason and I were just checking in earlier on as well. We talked about this a little bit about the space that comes from just being still, and the breath is a great invitation to kind of be still in a very kind of practical way. And I think that's the source of creativity as well. Like when we have the presence of mind, and Tara Brach spoke about this as well before, Jan, about operating from a heart that's ready for anything, and it kind of reminds me of the poem as well that, and the power of heart math. It kind of allows us to achieve coherence between the conflicting heart and brain, which came through in the poem as well. And the gut did a great job of introducing a great source of calm through the lungs. Around that whole experience that kind of encapsulates like kind of a lot of the principles of heart math as well, of the breath as a source of, back to lungs of a source of stillness and clarity, that you can make better sense of what's going on in the heart and in the head and in the gut. And we often don't think of the lungs as being, a source of stillness or a source of wisdom, maybe even, or creativity. Some things we're talking about today. So I think that the poem does a lovely job to remind us, like, of the power of space. And again, one of the things that came up in our conversation so far is kind of when we're operating from either the heart or the head, and we act in a way that doesn't serve us. Again, it's a great invitation to think about, um, you know, we talked about regret often is a key part of rumination. Oh God, why did I say that? And then that sticks in our head and we get stuck in a cycle of blaming ourselves and criticizing ourselves. Why the hell did I say that? And we really beat ourselves up. Maybe for, in the minutes, it could be hours, or it could be days, or it could be years, or it could be decades of, really harsh self-criticism of something we did or said or acted. And it kind of goes back to the practice of compassion, like Jan, you mentioned there, like that the more we kind of feel this, the more opportunities we have to learn and to be compassionate. And I think there's great power in that as well. But there's great power in that in as a preventative mechanism too. In the heat of the moment, we can use the power of stillness, the power of the lungs, the power of breath, to be able to proactively ensure that we limit the amount of rumination that we may experience by simply be more proactive in, as Tara Brach again speaks to about operating from a space, from the heart or from the head that's prepared for anything. And I think that comes through the power of breath. Taking a single breath or a couple of breaths can be a great tool for us, a real practical tool. When we get, as myself and Jason talked about curveballs and unexpected events that happen, and we have all experienced those. And that's when the power of stillness and the power of breath can be a real ally. When, we get the unexpected, it arrives, and then, we have the presence of mind, the presence of heart, the presence of lung, the presence of gut, be able to engage, create the space from the lungs, and then engage with whatever has arisen from a place of being better prepared rather than a place of instant regret when we act and engage in a way that doesn't serve us. You know what I mean? So all these things were kind of coming to mind in today's conversation around like rumination, and there's simple things we can do to minimize the extent of rumination that may occur through a simple practice of just being with the lungs and taking that breath. That can be a game changer for ourselves and a game changer for everyone around us, I think. And I think that's a key message out of today's conversation.
Thank you so much, Seamus. Yeah, I really appreciate that kind of summary and that kind of takeaway because I think it's really, truly important. And I think it's so true. The other thing that the poem kind of resonated for me is this whole idea of embodiment. Like, like which heart map, it's like it's being present. So kind of anchoring into your grounding into yourself and finding that foundation within yourself to be able to do so. Because I think that, if we're caught in one area or the other, the brain, the heart, it's almost like we've disconnected from, you know, from sort of like the substance of who we are. And whatever avenue you use to get it back, and I think it's all a combination of like almost activities. It's a combination of breath work, of pausing, of quiet, of creativity, of getting embodied, and that might be through movement. So I think it's a combination of them all that we kind of, that you have the ability or you can bring all together. Our workshops, we do all of those things. And I think that, during, the time we're together, and I think that's truly important. And one of the practices that Mary Jane and I revisited, and we just did it in our last workshop with her, with Darlene, was something called heart mapping. And I don't know if any of you have done heart mapping. It was created by Georgia Hurd, and basically, um, she, you draw like it's like drawing a big heart emoji or printing it out on a piece of paper, and it's literally mapping what's in your heart. And people draw, people write words, color it, whatever is created. It was created by her. She comes from a family of cartographers, map makers. And so she has a wonderful TED talk on heart mapping, on which she's now done around the world with people and kids of adults of all ages. And it's literally just a beautiful representation and a beautiful opportunity for creativity to literally see what's in your heart. Like it's one thing to feel it and to think about it, but to actually get a visual representation of what's in your heart is a really wonderful experience if you haven't done it. I mean, I've now done dozens, and they always change, and they're always different because I'm different each time I do them. And so, Jason, please.
I love that, Jan, the heart mapping and everything you just described. I raised my hand when Seamus was talking because him and I connected earlier this morning and talking about the lungs, right? And breathing in, we get to breathe in uh, the new, right? And as we exhale, it's letting go of those past moments, right? Or whatever it is that we want to let go of. So you breathe in what you want and you let go of the things that you don't want. And it's almost this practice of not just centering, but it's this practice of resetting our default mode, right? And the more we do it, then Seamus and we got into this conversation about it, doing it in the moment. And the more we practice it, then it's allowing us to handle situations differently because we've reset our default mode. And so I just love the topic this morning of uh, letting go of these past things that maybe we regret or we're holding on to, and in the power of breath in that, how it can help us reset our default mode. Just beautiful conversation this morning. Thank you.
Thank you, Jason. And I agree. I mean, um, I always think to myself, like, and I actually gave a workshop last night for it's called the Network on Domestic Violence for a support group last night. And the thing I love is the fact that, we can breathe anywhere we go. I mean, we don't need an apparatus. We don't need anything. All we need is just ourselves and our breath. And so it's something you can do in any situation, no matter where you are. No one needs to know that you're doing it. So it's not obvious to anybody. It's not like you have to do you have to stand on your head somewhere or something, even though I have, but that's besides the point. But but you can do it, like you can be anywhere, in any circumstance or going into any circumstance and take a moment and pause and breathe. And that is such a gift. And I don't know that it is very, it's very experiential. And the fact that you feel it, you do it, you feel it. One is, I think it calls you back to do more. Like you realize, if when you have that realization, you're like, oh, okay, this made me feel better. I'm going to go do this again. So I think it's like self-perpetuating in that way. But I think you need to, it's one thing to talk about it, but I think you need to experience it because then you truly feel it and you know the power of it. And I think you do. I think the more you practice it, it's like any sort of practice, whether it be yoga, because there's a lot of breath work, or Tai Chi, or Qigong, or just meditation. The more you practice it, um, the it's almost like it brings your baseline up to a higher level. And I think the other thing that breath work, when I think about it, and when we were doing the other night um, with Darlene, it was this kind of thing that, when, yes, when we breathe in, we kind of center, we ground, we notice what we need, and then we exhale stuff out we are ready to let go of. Um, we exhale it away. And then when we breathe in again, we have the opportunity to kind of to reflect on what we'd like to bring in. I always say to my students, like, once you've emptied out, what do you want to fill yourself with? And maybe it's nothing at the moment. You just want that space. But maybe it is something. Like, what do you want to fill up with? I mean, I always think space a lot because I'm now in this kind of mechanism of pause. Like, I'm not in a rush to put anything in. Like, I want to be present and call things in.
I love that. I love that, Jan, of being present. And as you know, my phrase for this year is intuitive presence. So it's just it does have a lot to do with the pause, taking a moment and realizing um with curiosity, of course, where I'm meant to be and being in those spaces, if that's where I'm being called to be. And so I just love that presence. Has a lot to do with the whole topic, right, of reflection versus rumination, of course. You know, being present and but not being present, but not necessarily dwelling on it, right? So that's the whole thing about reflection is a being present, acknowledging, being aware of, and then but not getting stuck in that place. As I was saying earlier, taking that one small step forward, whatever that means, um, to see the big wide world instead of that cul-de-sac that you might have been living in.
Yeah. I love that, Mary Jane, because I think it does. It's almost like you have such a limited view in that cul-de-sac,
Hmm.
right? If I think about, the fact that basically I live on a cul-de-sac. So a circle, it's a circle, but
Yes.
still, you could go around and around and around if you wanted to and not get off. But the fact that what do you see on that? So yes, it does change or whatever, and I'm really like because I'm very into awe and being aware. But you could technically look and see the same whatever how many other houses or whatever or townhouses, um, and keep them going around and around and see the same thing all the time, and basically not step off at all if you chose. And Seamus said that she says it's realizing we have a choice,
Hmm.
it's taking a breath, even realizing how like it's like pausing and taking that breath. And even we didn't even realize that that's a choice. It's like, okay. And then almost, and then you feel like, okay, this is a pivotal moment. This is a choice point here. And I have a choice. And I think sometimes we spoke in the opening, and I think that we don't even realize we're in that ruminating kind of spiral
Yes.
necessarily. And then some of if you do a conscious breath when you're there, all of a sudden that's when it gives you the information. That's when the awareness comes of like, oh, I think I'm stuck. I
Yes.
think I'm, I think I'm stuck here. Like I'm not moving forward. I've been thinking about this a long time. No creative ideas are coming to me. I'm just rehashing the same things over and over and over again.
I'm
So I
laughing because you in my brain, Jan, just saying.
Yeah, well, I'm in mine, which is basically yours. Um, but I think what's so valuable to me, and as I sat there last night with these women, um, is sharing these experiences and us sharing together and how important that is, because I think we realize that the human experience and like the human brain and our ability of the human brain's a gift, like don't obviously. Um, and its ability to try to figure things out and and why it happens to keep us safe, and we equate it with being safe, so we feel like the more we think about it the safer we are. um, I mean, it's like, oh, I'm thinking about this is going to prevent it from happening again. It's going to keep me safe in some way. But I think sharing these stories and these conversations is so important because we realize that others have experienced the same thing, and others are continue and we will continue probably to experience the same thing as life throws us curveballs or not so curveballs, and we get in situations or things happen that we were either planning or were hoping would never happen.
Yes, it's absolutely true. I loved what Seamus was saying in the chat about presence is the invitation to feel effortless connection from the gentle effort of choosing to be still. It's true, and we had somebody say that to us on Wednesday, didn't we, Jan? About in our rooted in stillness was that she thanked us for giving her an opportunity to pause and be still, even though we were doing things. It's not like we weren't doing things in the actual event. It was just she thanked us for doing this series of just giving her moments to pause and to be still. And that to me was a great gift to hear somebody say that, because that was the whole intent behind why we created the series. But I just loved that perspective that she shared with us.
Absolutely. Rooted in stillness.
Yes.
The title of the program, Rooted in Stillness. And I think that that's what it is. And sometimes, we do have to make a choice or an effort to find those pockets or opportunities.
Hmm.
Um, However we find them, um, to be still for a period of time.
Yeah, because it's not always comfortable being still, is it?
No, it's not. I mean, I have had many a day where being still was a challenge.
Yes.
And then I think that that's when my practice changed and became a little bit more flowing, or a little bit more like the question would be like, what would be the best thing to serve me now? Or what do I feel like I need right now versus what I should do right now? Like there was that shift from do versus
Being.
be, and what would nourish me now versus this kind of, I have like us, many of us, I have a, toolbox of tools that I can gravitate to, but not necessarily does the same thing work for me every day. Like sometimes I really need to move. And
Yeah.
sometimes I really would love to get outside, but the weather is, -20, so,
Yeah.
so I have to get creative. I have to get curious and come up with different ideas of things that will help with that will give me that entry point into stillness.
Absolutely. It's that's the great thing is being able to have the various tools at hand that might bring us insight, wisdom, curiosity, peace, pause, stillness, depending on what we're looking for in that day, and or in that, not even the day. Sometimes it's moment to moment. So I just love that we have those various tools.
And I
And
love
we
what
have spaces like this and others where we can talk about the things that are on our mind and share what's on our hearts. So it's a blessing.
absolutely. And I was just looking at what Jason just wrote because I love that the real gift is being still inside while we're doing. And
That's true.
absolutely. Absolutely. Um, because then I think that no matter what you do, if you can find that still point or that stillness, then it doesn't, it could be anything. I mean, it could be, the doing of everyday tasks. And if you can find that place of stillness, fantastic.
And
Absolutely.
this reminds me, yeah, there was a lot to do with Jan as well. This part of the conversation around forcing myself to be still. I remember I went through a phase there a while ago of putting pressure on myself to be still, which kind of is completely beat over, it goes against the purpose of what you're trying to do in the first place. This came through with the breath is the bridge as well. When you're forcing and consciously trying to do something, then you're actually doing the opposite. You know what I mean? And I think that it's part of a practice or an experience to notice when you're forcing, and then notice the difference when you just are able to somehow step back from that. I think that's what the breath delivers for us as well, is to be able to notice when we're forcing, and then to just be kind, come back to compassion and kindness, and just kind of maybe take it even a deeper breath to say, this is not a time for forcing. This is a time for ease, and just intentionally, notice that you're forcing, and through that noticing, enable yourself to be able to just be rather than the doing of forcing to be still. And again, it's so easy to fall into that trap from a conditioned world where we're so used to forcing and doing and pushing ourselves to do something that is unnatural. It's funny how that can actually, for the most natural thing, you think oh, it's so easy to become still, but it's not because sometimes we force ourselves, and that's my own personal experience. But it's lovely then to be able to create a space where you feel you're not forcing. And I think, like you mentioned earlier, John, there's a lot of learning in that. And when that penny drops, oh, I'm noticing that I'm forcing myself. And then you can be more compassionate and kind through that noticing. And that in itself is a very valuable process, I think, you know?
Absolutely, Seamus. And I always think it's kind of funny that they call it breath work because it's always it kind of speaks to what you're speaking to. The whole idea of like, and so that's why I love when, to invite in the breath. Like it's an invitation. It's softer. It's like, oh, come join me, breath, versus like almost like it's like when you have to sleep and you want to sleep and you're like, okay, sleep. And it just doesn't work because you're so like tense and you're in that tension, there's no ease, there's no welcoming, there's no invitation. There's just like I should be breathing, and this is the way I should be breathing. And so I love this whole idea of, which does seem very contrary, breath work. Like something about breathing should not be work. And I listened to um, I'm trying to remember her name. I think her last name was Leon. She was the poet laureate, I think a few years ago. And she said, when she used to tell her friends to come to yoga, they said they didn't want to be told when to breathe. And we always say breathe in, breathe out. And it just cracked me up, We don't want to be told when to breathe. Like it bothers me that they're going to tell me when to breathe. But which is quite funny. But I think it's so true that we get like, that breath should be something that's natural, that feels right in your body. That feels right. Like when you breathe in and you have that really good, like it's almost like a good night's sleep, when you have that real fluid, just full, relaxed breath, feels very different than trying to force a count. And I'm not saying counting breaths is really great, but then offering people an opportunity to say, okay, find a comfortable rhythm for yourself. Because, some days, let's say you can't count to 6 or 8 or 10 or whatever, and then exhale for a larger count. Like it's just, you're not there at the moment, especially maybe when you begin. Maybe over time it comes once you have relaxed enough. But trying to force it never almost seems very contrary to me. And I actually think it does not fulfill the purpose. Like I think it's almost contrary to what we're trying to, and I don't like to use the word achieve, but what we're trying to, to bring ourselves to the state we're trying to bring ourselves to. Yeah, it is an oxymoron. Breath work. Oh my gosh, I don't know. Sometimes people label things that, we make a mistake in our labeling. Al, please.
Yeah, so important. Breath work is like a spiral, It goes in our body and then comes out again. So it's like it's so pertinent, The oxygen that we breathe in, then the carbon dioxide that we breathe out, and so it just like goes into the lungs, and after that comes back out. So it's so like spiral. So everything in our lives it goes in like circular motions. Like when you look from the top, when the spiral, if you take a spring and all that, it goes from the top to the bottom, it circles and goes down, and after that it comes back up again. Like what you're saying, going in loops, going down, up, and all that. Sometimes, like in life, also, sometimes it's like a groundhog day. You you wake up, you brush your teeth, you comb your hair, you go out, then you after finishing work and come back to the house and sleep, and the next morning you wake up again. It's the same alarm clock. So it's like the movie thing keep on going and going. So sometimes we just have to disrupt the pattern and mix it more beautifully in our life. Yeah, so the spiral will make our lives goes round and round in beautiful colors and rainbows. So basically the acronym for this week, spiral. is also linked back to our spirit born imagines. Yeah. So it's a spiritual power, imagines, reflecting affection and love. So I'll put that in the chat, and you guys can enjoy it because it's so important to have affection and love in our daily lives. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Al. And I love the what you shared about spirals of energy, like about the circles. Um, and Seamus has experienced this, maybe Mary Jane. The system of yoga that I practice is a series of spirals. We have six spirals that are happening in the body, and we talk about them. And the body alignment actually has to do with these spirals. So Mary Jane, do you have anything you want to share? And then maybe I'll share that and go into the meditation.
Um, where are you trying to read my mind again, Jan? Just
Mhm.
I actually pulled a raise your vibration card.
Oh, okay. Yeah, please.
I was thinking to share that if that's okay.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
the card that I drew today, which is kind of speaking to what the last bit that we've been speaking to, and it says, I lovingly accept myself. And so the little booklet says, loving yourself can be one of the greatest challenges to overcome, but not for your soul, for your ego. The reason self-acceptance can be so hard is because your ego will try to make your love conditional. You will love yourself when your body is perfect, or when you finish the project you're working on, and so on. But love is unconditional. It goes beyond boundaries, achievements, and vanity. Loving yourself is about being willing to see the great spark of light and goodness in the depth of your being. It's about being willing to respect that the body you are in is a miraculous vehicle in which you are able to experience the brightness of your soul. Lovingly accepting yourself means truly honoring who you are. It's about moving beyond the self perceived flaws and finding the beauty anyway. It's deciding you are no longer going to be represented by a negative opinion, fear, or anything else that comes between you and your goodness in the past. Love is who you are. Today, the universe is inviting you to recognize this truth. And the vibe of the day is I am love, head to toe, body to soul. And with that, I turn it over to you, Jan.
Thanks so much, Mary Jane. Love that. So we'll move into our little bit of alignment and meditation. So if you are, well, no matter your body position, so if you're sitting or lying down or standing, doesn't really matter, but we're going to focus on two loops of energy. So one of those loops takes place in the chest or in the upper chest and the chest. And the loop of energy is this. It starts at the diaphragm. From the diaphragm, it goes forward to the front of the chest. It goes up toward the chin, and then it kind of loops back at the notch of the throat. And then it goes down the upper back and forward when it gets to the back of the, bottom tips of the shoulder blades, which is basically the back of your diaphragm. And that loop of energy keeps on going. So basically that helps us lift up through the chest a little bit, draw the shoulders down away from the head a little bit to relax them down. And it doesn't need to be forced. And these energetic loops are always happening. So they're always happening. And that's kind of the idea is that our chest lifts, it makes it easier to breathe in a physiological way, but it also has a lift up of the heart, that the heart is very dominant, not forced, not military chest. It's very relaxed. Now, the top loop is what we call skull loop. And this one is helping us drop the chin slightly so it's parallel to the chest. So almost like the top of your chest is meeting the under part of your chin. And it starts at the base of the throat. It loops back to the back of the head, right where the occiput is, the ridge in the skull. It goes up the back of the skull, over the top, down the front of the face. And then once it gets to the chin or the throat, it loops back. And the whole idea is that my head is bowing to my heart, that my brain, like when my heart leads, my head follows. And so, just as we go into this meditation, think about that idea of that relaxed breath being in an area of presence and awareness, and that our head, our brain, kind of bows to the wisdom of the heart center of the heart. And just take a few breaths here in and out. Invite in the breath. Let the breath be in its natural rhythm. There's nothing you need to change or shift, nothing you need to fix. Just allowing yourself to arrive in your breath. You may begin to notice thoughts moving through the mind, memories, conversations, ideas that came up this morning, things that happened earlier today or perhaps long ago. And this is what the mind does. It thinks, it remembers, and it revisits. And sometimes those thoughts begin to circle, replaying a moment, a conversation, a decision. And if you notice this happen, simply acknowledge it, noticing without pushing it away, just an awareness. Now introduce a new way of meeting these thoughts. Often when the mind begins to spiral, we may ask ourselves harsh questions like, why did I do that? What is wrong with me? And these questions can keep the mind turning in the same circle. So today, let the invitation be a softer approach. Instead of asking what is wrong, we gently ask, what might this moment be teaching me? Allow that question to rest quietly in the mind, not searching for an answer, simply opening the door to curiosity. If a thought arises, meet it gently. What might this moment be teaching me? Perhaps the lesson is patience, perhaps understanding, perhaps simply the reminder to be kind to yourself. Let your thoughts come and go like waves moving through the ocean. You are not the waves. You are the quiet space that notices the waves. And each time the mind begins to circle again, simply return to that gentle question. What might this moment be teaching me? Breathing in and breathing out. Allowing curiosity to soften judgment. Allowing reflection to replace rumination. Resting here for a few moments in quiet awareness. You are not the waves. You are the quiet space that notices them. Allow curiosity to soften judgment. Allow reflection to replace rumination. Resting in the moments of quiet awareness. And when you're ready, slowly bring your attention back to the room, feeling your breath, your body, this moment, and carrying with you this simple practice of pausing the spiral, meeting our thoughts with curiosity and compassion.
That
Thank
was lovely, Jan.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. And so thank you all for joining us today. Please take a moment to connect with us during the week. We'd love to hear from you and have a conversation and get caught up. We have our first workshop for Spirit Born Imaginings tomorrow, actually, at 2 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. So if you'd like to join us, there's still a few slots left. Um, from heart to heart, compassion for self and others is what we're doing. And if you want information on that, we can pop it in the comments or just connect with us. Take a moment, if you are not, subscribe to our YouTube channel because all these recordings are located there. And feel free to share them with others if you think they would benefit them. And we are so glad you're here. We love you all. Thanks.
Thank you all. Blessings, everyone.